Who dares?
I think I got his attention.
When Buffy the Vampire Slayer first spin-kicked its way onto our old 1997 television sets, we had no way of knowing just how culturally significant this teenage demon hunter would end up being. While the show's been off the air for years, its influence is still felt throughout pop culture, and like everything popular in the 90s, it was only a matter of time until someone tried to ride that relevance into the hellmouth of cynical reboots. But in Buffy's case, that reboot never made it out of development hell. So why did it get staked? Well, the answers might lie in the allegedly leaked pilot script that recently surfaced online.
So Giles, got anything that could make this day any worse?
How about the end of the world?
Knew I could count on you.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, New Sunnydale would have been a brand new series set in the Buffy universe, which would have introduced new characters and seen some returning cast members. The most notable of those returning names was Sarah Michelle Gellar as the titular Buffy Summers. This was significant since Gellar had been resistant to the idea of ever returning to Sunnydale for more than 2 decades, but director Chloe Zhao of Eternals and Hamnet fame managed to convince her through sheer passion for the project. In 2024, a pilot was written by industry veterans Nora and Lila Zuckerman, and the following year, it went into production. Things seemed to be going smoothly. The show was set to debut on Hulu sometime in 2026, and then out of seemingly nowhere, the whole thing was canceled, turned to dust. Gellar got the news in the form of a phone call as she was stepping on stage at South by Southwest to promote Ready or Not 2. The same day, Zhao was gearing up to head to the Oscars as a nominee for Best Director, and it left everyone involved reeling, including fans who scrambled for answers. How could this happen? Why did it happen? They were desperate for any information they could find, and what they found was a leaked pilot script, allegedly. To some fans, this only deepened the frustration because they loved the pilot and were baffled as to why it got canned. Other fans, well, reading the script was all the answers they needed. To say reactions were mixed feels like the understatement of the century. And for what it's worth, Gellar has gone on record to say that the leaked script is not correct, which means that the version we have is, at the very least, an early draft. She also asked fans not to read it, so keeping that in mind, let's read it.
Now this is not going to be pretty. We're talking violence, strong language, adult content.
Okay, we're gonna step away from Sunnydale for a moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Higgsfield, and their game-changing AI video generation tool, Seedance 2.0. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what to think when Higgsfield first approached me to sponsor a video. I was pretty skeptical of what AI video generation could do. But Seedance 2.0 really surprised me with the depth of the tool and the ease of use. As the fastest growing Gen AI company out there today, Higgsfield's mission is to make multi-shot AI video generation accessible for everyone. And it's safe to say they've succeeded thanks to their launch of Seedance 2.0. Not only is Seedance 2.0 extremely user-friendly, it also produces top-quality video, like shockingly good stuff. Other AI video models often struggle with the details. Consistency across shots, complex motions, and character interactions can be tough or even impossible to replicate with real-world accuracy. But not with Seedance 2.0. It was obviously built with creators in mind. Seedance 2.0 allows you to input up to 9 images, 3 video clips, and 3 audio clips alongside your prompt. You can edit previously generated clips down to the finest details and even have characters lip-sync dialogue in multiple languages. And with precise instructions for visual composition, camera language, motion rhythm, and sound characteristics, you'll generate a gorgeously rendered end product you can actually be proud of. Seriously, look at this footage. And this is only a snapshot of what's available with Seedance 2.0. The only real limit here is your own imagination. So whether you're looking to blend live-action footage with AI-generated effects or create entire short films purely through the power of text-to-video AI, this tool has everything you need to make your dream project a reality. And the best part? Seedance 2.0 on Higgsfield has the lowest cost per generation on the market. That means you get professional quality output and ridiculously minute levels of control, all for less than you'd be paying the other guys. So if you've got big ideas and are looking to finally execute them, check out Seedance 2.0 by going to our specific link here, or heading down to the video description and clicking the link. Try it out. After seeing what Seedance 2.0 is capable of, you'll be impressed with Higgsfield and yourself. Now, let's get back to Buffy. After a brief tongue-in-cheek reference to the past, with a young woman dressed as a sexed-up parody of the Slayer going through a haunted maze, the new Sunnydale pilot introduces us to Nova, our fledgling Slayer, who was supposed to be played by Ryan Kara Armstrong, known most recently for her role in the criminally underrated Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Yes, despite the show's full title being Buffy the Vampire Slayer New Sunnydale, Gellar's Buffy is not actually the main Slayer of the show, and that is the first of many possible reasons that the reboot didn't make it onto Hulu. Most fans want Buffy and their Buffy the Vampire show, but this is a reboot meant for a new generation, and it requires a new teen Slayer. Unlike Buffy, Nova is a quiet, introverted bookworm with an overprotective dad. After the original Sunnydale collapsed into a hellmouth crater during Buffy's final episode, New Sunnydale was apparently erected in its place. Still in the midst of construction, New Sunnydale has all the weirdness of Portland, but with less authenticity and more corporate backing by some company called Vortex, which would have undoubtedly been a villainous presence for our Slayer and her Scoobies if the show had been greenlit. But instead, all we have are vague allusions in this script, which also introduces us to all of Nova's soon-to-be friends. We have Hugo, a rich kid struggling to fit in, the God-fearing Gracie, and the overzealous activist Larkin. We also meet Mr. Burke, a teacher described as Callie Cool in a beachy man bun, who encourages his class to take cleansing breaths. Now, it's not always easy to discern what sort of tone a show will take on just by reading a rough draft of a pilot script, and on their own, some of these lines of dialogue might come off as clunky, overwritten, and forced. But in context, it seems like this script is at least trying to be self-aware and poke fun at some of the most outlandish stereotypes they're including. Whether or not it's successful is up to the individual reader, but it might be unfair to write the whole thing off as irredeemably terrible. As an example, at the end of the pilot, after Nova's Slayer powers are weakened and she kicks some serious butt, Mr. Burke gets turned into a vampire and his words of encouragement start sounding a whole lot more sinister, telling Nova, "It's gratifying seeing you get involved. When I rip out your throat, I want you to hear it, know it, feel it." The concept of a hippie-type teacher getting turned into a demonic creature and still talking like a wellness guru is just kind of inherently funny. But do all the jokes land? No. Is some of the dialogue genuinely cringe-inducing? Absolutely. And that may very well be another contributing factor for why this pilot never aired and we never got our fully rebooted series. But let's remember that the original Buffy TV show was absolutely full of arguably overwritten, cringy dialogue. And some of those jokes and lines really do not hold up.
Ooh, pancakes could go in bellies.
That was part of Buffy's charm, though. The quip-heavy, sardonic way the characters speak in the original show was an invention by creator Joss Whedon. He intentionally wrote his dialogue in a way that was elevated from reality. Teenagers in the 90s didn't really talk the way Buffy characters talked. Today, that kind of language has been co-opted and consumed by other movies and TV shows, either by Whedon himself or various replicators. So why shouldn't the reboot have leaned into that idea? Why shouldn't it make use of heightened language and borderline cartoon character archetypes? If anything, that would only indicate that the people making the show actually understand the material. Really, the whole script is full of evidence that the creators of the Buffy reboot were true fans of Buffy. There are plenty of visual references to the original pilot episode, and it has a similar structure. That level of reverence should have been enough to greenlight the series. But according to Gellar, the whole reason that the Buffy reboot got canceled was due to one executive who was very loudly and proudly not a true fan of Buffy. Not only that, but he'd never even watched it. Speaking to people, Gellar said, "That's very hard when you're taking a property that is as beloved as Buffy, not just to the world, but to me and Chloe." So that tells you the uphill battle that we have been fighting since day one, when your executive is literally proud to tell you that he didn't watch it. So that's pretty damning. The project was apparently doomed from the start thanks to the disinterest of a single executive. If Gellar's version of events is to be taken as fact, that is. Of course, it may be more complicated than that. The pilot may also have just not been very good. We already outlined a couple issues with the script, but there are plenty more. The fact that Buffy is, for some reason, treated like a legend rather than a human being.
So, the Slayer.
Yeah, that's me.
We thought you were a myth.
Well, you were myth taken.
And that Slayers aren't thought to be real, yet the local public library has an entire section dedicated to Rupert Giles's book collection. Or that Buffy herself doesn't even show up until the stinger at the very end, after Nova fails to stop a ritual and an army of vampires erupts from the new Sunnydale golf course. All of these issues might have been fixed once it came time to film the pilot, and in fact, at least one of them reportedly was. Hulu apparently asked for a more mature version of the story with a bigger focus on Buffy, and the team delivered. The new version of the script, which so far has not been leaked online, was received well. And yet, the pilot still did not result in a full series. Why? We'll probably never know for sure. Maybe it was that one executive's doing, maybe no amount of rewrites could have saved the finished product. Or maybe Hulu and companies like it are finally realizing we'd all prefer original content to all these reboots and spin-offs. Okay, that last one isn't very likely, but we can dream, right? The reality is that whether the Buffy reboot had launched with this script or a more mature one, there would be no pleasing the entirety of the fan base. We've seen it time and time again across movies and TV shows. Adhering too closely to an original work has fans screaming for more originality. Diverging too much has them screaming for faithfulness to the source material. With Buffy, creating a modern story with current generational teenagers makes sense. That approach would have stayed true to the spirit of the show without following too closely in Buffy's fancy footwork. And bringing Sarah Michelle Gellar back as an assumed watcher-type figure would have been a great way to bridge that generational divide. But Hulu disagreed, and now, whether we like it or not, we won't be returning to Sunnydale anytime soon. And well, that's it for today's video. Be sure to let us know in the comments whether you would have watched New Sunnydale or whether you're ready for Buffy to be put to rest. And don't forget to subscribe to Nerdstalgic for more videos like this.